The College Football Experience Week 13 reaction show on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rebet. Rebet is a new social sportsbook available in 4 to 5 different states. Download the Rebet app. Use that promo code SGPN for 100% deposit match up to $100. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and college basketball with Rhythm. Get your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
This is Mike Leach, head football coach at Mississippi State, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the College Football Experience Week 13 reaction show. We are here, youtube.com/the college experience. Get on over there, hit that like and subscribe button. Oh, it feels good. Not only am I in the midst of a fire day, which did include some crazy money line plays. I just want to have, we had Mike Leach on the introduction there. Rest in peace to the great Mike Leach. I got my Fresno State shot glass going on as they're currently clinging to a lead that will totally fuck up the entire Mountain West race as they're up 14 on Colorado State in the fourth quarter. Still a lot of time left. So, I'm just going to start off, cheers. All right. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. I was looking at recent, final standings, which, obviously are coming out at the end of the regular season or following conference championships. And I'm seeing all these, right now, we got a bunch of 1-loss and 2-loss teams coming into the week. And it's like, okay, this is a doomsday scenario. Some great teams are going to have to get left out. But I'm looking historically, and it's never like that. Typically, at the fringe of number 12 is a 3-loss team, whether that be at number 12 or at number 13, right around there. You start to get to the third loss. Now, does that mean that team is always in the playoff? I don't think so. I think a group of 5 team typically bumps them out. And so you're usually stuck with mostly 1- and 2-loss teams in the playoff or no loss teams. But we were all afraid, this is going to be a log jam at the top. No, dude, the final couple weeks of the season, absolute carnage. And that's what we witnessed today.
Today was fantastic. Shout out to Mike Leach on the introduction. I wish he was around to see it because he was a proponent of a 64 team playoff. And I think today, we just took a giant step towards expansion, I think, which is good because it's absolutely chaotic game in, game out. Whether it's the NIL, whether it's the portal, this sport is changing, and I think it's fantastic. And Patty C also, we should note that, and I got to introduce ourselves, but there was way more meaningful games on November 23rd than there were a season ago, thanks to this gigantic playoff. We'll touch more on that in a second. If you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swing at Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, tailless pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
I mean, I love the sport. I've been watching D3, D2, NAIA playoffs mixed with classic FCS games and FBS games. I saw, Oklahoma pull a big upset that I was on the money line with.
Wow.
I saw. I mean, the whole sport's fantastic. We had Boise State struggling with a 2-win team on the road late. I saw Lehigh Lafayette, the legendary rivalry. They took the goalpost and threw it in a damn river. Just the sport is everything, man.
Yeah.
You can't take it. Storm and Fields and Norman and Tempe.
Great SEC battles.
Auburn, Alabama. Yes, it's just fantastic. And my ECU Pirates did come back down 21-0 and win, and we'll get to all of that. I am joined by my co-host. Give it up for former JMU Duke defensive back, the burrito eating, sideline kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, Patty C in the place to be.
Hi. Well,
Body.
we got some requests for me to pound a drink. I've been pounding drinks all evening, so bear with me. Let me throw down half one. I'm gonna work up to a fully later on.
Oh yeah, YouTube.com/the college experience. I mean, this is just I'm having like a record day as far as gambling, but I'm talking about more so just I love part of college football. It's ingrained is the shit talking between fan bases, between TV personalities, radio person, whoever. That's the best part about it is when you have a 134 leagues, subdivision, and then so on and so on. Even the FCS has it, D2 has it, D3 has it, NAIA has it.
We're getting into rivalry central here, so
yes,
everyone's talking shit.
Everyone's talking shit. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. I watched Harvard blow a fucking lead. I mean, they were about to win the Ivy. Yale beats them. Columbia wins the Ivy. I get to share the Ivy for the first time since the 60s. You got Penn State with a fake punt to basically win the game because they were probably going to lose that game.
Yeah, James Franklin not blowing a game, actually winning a game at the end.
What
we're
a
seeing
ballsy
new things.
call.
Yeah.
What a ballsy call. It was absolutely perfect. And I can't wait to see how corrupt they react to these things. But let's just go chronologically like we do every week now. By the way, that like I said, there's 3 games going on right now. UCLA is up 13-9 on USC. Shout out to 357 Wyoming Cowboys cover in football. Long Island Sharks in hoops. Colby, yes, giving us $5. I appreciate that. I had a record day. Long Island money line, Florida Gators money line. Had a bunch of money on Arizona State, which almost went, and then the Oklahoma Sooners. Right now we have Fresno State, like I said, 28-14, a minute left in the third. So not the fourth. Nevada just gave up a touchdown to Air Force. So Air Force has a 3-point lead. Nevada is at midfield, I believe. I have money on that game. And then UCLA's up 13-9 on USC. Patty C. I know we're going to go game by game, but just how great is this?
Well, it's pretty great, but I haven't really contemplated who's what the real impact is yet. I haven't sat down and mapped it out, but I guess we can do that to an extent on this show. But I mean, it's pretty dramatically different from what it was at the beginning of the day. A lot has changed.
Yeah, a lot has changed, and it started with SMU 33, Virginia 7. I did lose money on Virginia plus 11, but Patty C, this locks in SMU into the ACC championship. They remain undefeated in conference.
It may lock them into the playoff if they can win next week. Depending on
yeah. I think this is a great day for the ACC. You're probably going to get 2 teams in. But at the same time, I wouldn't count on SMU beating Cal. Judging by what we've watched all year, watch out. But lost in all of this, I feel like, is the fact an AAC team joins the ACC and goes undefeated. Well, with 1 week left.
And let's not act like SMU has been a perennial juggernaut. They've been good lately in the American, and then jumping up to the ACC and really kind of kicking everyone's ass. I mean, the close game against Louisville.
Boston College was a little bit close. Yeah.
Yeah, Boston College. But for the most part, they've handled business.
Duke was really close. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, for the rest, they kind of just whooped ass. But I mean, your Wahoos, it's down to the Commonwealth Cup to go bowling or not. But SMU, Virginia, dominating performance by the Mustangs at Scott Stadium. And then your boy Pick Dundee did take the Florida Gators on the money line, 24-17. I am so sick of these people spewing Ole Miss. These SEC talking heads every year trying to tell me that they're good. They are not. All right? They are not a good football team.
I don't know that they're not a good football team, but I think Florida is becoming a real threat. And if you lose to Florida, then you can't really take the beginning of the year and separate it out from the end of the year too much, And so a team like Miami whooping the tar out of Florida at the beginning of the year, people who think the ACC is trash and that Miami is trash, they have to deal with that now. Because who has Florida beaten? Florida's beaten
Ole Miss and LSU.
LSU, yeah. So decent wins within the conference.
But that's my thing is you look at Ole Miss and they've played really no one. They lost to Kentucky at home, right?
Yeah.
But they beat South Carolina, but South Carolina was on the backup quarterback. But that was still a nice ass whooping. But they didn't have Sellers.
I mean, they beat Georgia pretty soundly.
That's what I'm saying. But Georgia, they lose to LSU, they lose to Florida, and they lose to Kentucky. I'm sorry that just because you won one big game, that does not deem you a good team to me.
Yeah,
like you went, yeah. It to me, you're the same as fucking Iowa to me or something like that. You know what I mean? Like prove it to me that we that's something I will say too. I'm loving this because I'm sitting here and I can't help but notice right now the easy schedules are the teams in the mix for the most part.
Yeah. I
look and I say, coming into the year, I took a future on A&M and I had A&M losing to Auburn tonight. I bet Auburn, but also in the beginning of the year, I had A&M losing to Auburn, which they did. Yeah. But I thought A&M was going to be in a position to get to the playoffs and be the SEC champion. I also thought Texas would be in the mix because I thought their schedule broke nice for them.
Yeah.
I thought Tennessee and Ole Miss's schedule broke really nice for them, right?
Lo and behold, yeah.
And even Missouri I had in that mix too, and they're still going to win nine games, right? And then you look at the Big Ten. There's a reason why I played the Indiana over. Now I'd be lying if I said I had them at 10-1, but I said it was possible because of how easy the schedule was. And then you look elsewhere and you're like, I was bullish on Notre Dame to make the playoff just because I don't think they're that good. I just think that schedule's horrible, right?
Yeah, it's not rocket science here.
I thought Miami's schedule was horrible, right? Coming into the season, I thought Miami had a pretty good schedule to get to the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I even thought SMU got a favorable draw. Now, I didn't think they would be – they're kind of like Indiana where I thought like they would not achieve this, but I thought, hey, they have a nice schedule, right?
Yeah.
Same with Syracuse, who's not eligible to make they're not going to make the 12-team playoff, but they're still having a damn good. They have 8 wins, draw. I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you deduce from all of this? I think it pays to have a great schedule because I think that's almost telling the tale more than it's telling, what is a good football team and what is not.
Well, at the end of the day, that is still the thing that people are going to look at first and foremost. And, a dive into your strength of schedule is always going to come after, your schedule record is presented, And so if you don't pass that first test of two losses or less, then it doesn't matter how tough your schedule is. If you have 3 losses, you're probably going to get booted. So I think you're right. I think it pays to play a softer schedule.
I mean, some of it is just sheer luck. I don't think Big Ten was trying to cater to Indiana.
Yeah,
but I do believe the SEC was catering to Texas. I believe that 100%.
Which is such a bad look right now that Texas is essentially punched.
They played another backup quarterback today, dude. You can't write this. You can't write this. You can't.
Yeah,
this is unbelievable.
Over the last 2 years, it's been quite a few. But I mean, who else could? Tennessee still has 2 conference losses. Georgia does, and who's the third one outside of Texas? Is it just those 3?
Wait, so your SEC championship picture? We're gonna go game by game.
No, Texas just has that 1 conference loss. So
no, but the winner of Texas A&M goes to the SEC championship to play Georgia.
Even still with A&M taking that L?
A&M only has 2 losses, and so if they beat Texas, they would both have 2 losses, and A&M would have the tiebreaker.
What about with Tennessee, though?
No. From what I understand, Georgia clinched today, right? It's Texas A&M. The winner plays Georgia in the SEC championship.
Georgia. Okay, gotcha.
Now, Miami could still miss the ACC championship if they lose to Syracuse. Then Clemson would be in. And Clemson would be playing SMU. The Big 12, who the fuck knows? It's a crazy concoction of teams. I think still it's possible. I think 5 different teams, I still think. But and you have Oregon, Ohio State, right? Locked up in the Big 10. So that's the way. And I'll tell you what, if Colorado State doesn't come back and get this win, you're going to have UNLV and Boise playing in Boise. Because Boise's final game is not a conference game; that is a non-con game against Oregon State.
Essentially locked their spot.
Yes, and the Mountain West Championship is going to be played in Boise. Okay. So there's that. The AAC Championship, obviously, Army and Tulane was locked up last week.
Yep,
it's been fun, man. It's been a wild day, but. Anyway, let's continue on the Syracuse 31, UConn 24. I cover with these UConn Huskies. 10
nice performance by UConn.
Syracuse under Fran Brown 8-3 now, buddy.
Pretty darn impressive. And what is UConn's record right now?
7-4 with UMass left.
Almost as impressive, maybe more impressive given that it's UConn. So both of those teams completely overperforming this year. And that was an entertaining game. So Northeast football is back.
It really is. And yeah, shout out to the Qs. They host Miami. That's the first thing that I thought when watching all these games next week. I'm like, could Miami lose in Syracuse? After watching Miami against Wake Forest, I'm telling you that score is deceiving.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Miami was the better team, but I'm not convinced they're that good. Yeah, you made a comparison a couple weeks ago that Miami and Colorado are the same team. That's pretty fucking accurate to me.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of teams that are right in that kind of mix, whether that be Miami, Colorado. I think SMU is also, it's like good teams that against elite competition will most likely lose.
I think SMU's defense is a little bit better than both Colorado and Miami's.
Could be. Well, they're going to have their hands full next week, Miami, because Kyle McCord threw for 470 today. Somehow only 2 touchdowns, but 470 yards on 47 attempts. So they're flinging the ball around. That could be a big shootout right there.
Yeah. Shout out to the Qs. Jacksonville State cash for me as well. I laid it against Sam Houston. I mean, I didn't bet this, but I'm saying I picked it. 21-11. They clinch a spot in the CUSA Championship. Rich Rod, Patty C.
Boom. Is that 8 in a row?
They're hot.
A mighty 54 passing yards from Tyler Huff, but 177 rushing yards from your quarterback doesn't hurt. And then Trey Stewart going for 99 by himself. So Jacksonville State will run all over you.
Yeah, and I did cash on Iowa. This is the easiest bet all week. Iowa 29, Maryland 13. Whew.
They pulled away kind of late on that one. But
They're up 13
feel like
at halftime.
no, I just mean in terms of what was the let me get that pulled up. 10 in the fourth quarter.
They're up 16-0 in the third. What are you talking about?
Why did I feel like the score was closer than that? Maybe it was 16-6 at some point. Either way, they got the win. They got the easy cover. So congrats to Iowa. 7-4, still a little bit disappointing of a season by their standards.
Agreed. Yeah. But easy money. And then I also cashed on Boston College money line. I had a fucking great day today. Boston College money line, Florida money line, Iowa.
Boy, there were some that I was way off on. I figured that was a great angle that I wasn't ready to accept when you said it during the week. But just the fact that North Carolina is not going to go up to Boston at this point in the season and play their ass off. They're just not the type of team, and they didn't have the motivation on a week like this to get up for a game like this. And Boston College, hammered them.
Yeah. They were playing for a bowl. Shout out to Bill O'Brien. That was a good crowd they brought too, man. I'm starting to buy into the energy and the direction of the program under Bill O'Brien. To your point, Patty C, because I did question the hire when it first happened.
Well, we'll see. I think what are we looking at for Boston College here? They're 6-5, maybe 7-5 next week. Who do they got?
They have is it Pitt? I believe Pitt coming to Chestnut Hill.
It's a potentially winnable game, but I feel like 7-5 is what Boston College is going to do most years. 8-4, that's standard Boston College territory right there.
Yeah. Then you had the likes of Wake Forest, Miami. We kind of touched on this. Wake Forest, that pick 6 by Bachmeier.
Yeah, they were in position early in that game to jump back on top and take the lead. And man, it was just like directly into the chest of the defender, and he was boom, house call, unabated. Yeah,
I had the over in this game, and it was a brutal beat, absolutely brutal beat. Countless possessions inside the 20 with 0 points. Ohio State 38, Indiana 15. Shout out to Keanu in the chat. He's a Buckeye fan, and I did put $50 on the Hoosiers here. Plus, what was it? 10.5, 12. I don't remember. It didn't cash. I mean, you can't kudos to Ohio State, but you can't drop the fucking punt.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't make stupid mistakes and shoot yourself in the foot in the first place.
It was about to be 7-7 at halftime. You go into half saying we can win this thing, and you drop a punt at your own 6-yard line. You fucking loser. Yeah. That sums up the history of Indiana football.
Yep. And Notre Dame or Army did the same thing. It's just like both teams that were in like these huge games early on in the game. I guess that one wasn't that early because it was right before halftime, but still, it's just like, dude, that is an unforced error. Catch the punt and punt it. Catch the snap and punt it. I mean, it's just so weak. But anyway, beyond that, Indiana did not play a good game of football. They got sacked like 50 times. They could not protect the quarterback. I think their splits were too narrow because Ohio State would come off the edge every time, and they were already in the quarterback's lap as soon as they got around the offensive tackle. So that struck me right away. And then they had no counter to the pass rush. It's like Ohio State was like, all right, we're going to send 7 or 8. And Indiana never figured it out. Like they're sending 4 guys deep down the field. It's like, God, you have to have some kind of like short game if they're going to rush this many players.
Ohio State has not played the hardest schedule in the country. I'm sorry. Their non-con was a fucking joke. But yes, at Oregon and at Penn State are 2 of the hardest locations. And then a home game against Indiana. They're going to end up playing 3 playoff teams. But I would say even I would take Georgia's schedule over Ohio State's. Like Georgia had to go to Bama, to Texas, Clemson neutral, still got Georgia Tech in the non-con. And then you still took on Tennessee and Florida. I think that's a harder schedule.
I think you're right. I agree with you. That said, Ohio State would win 10 games minimum against almost any schedule that anyone's playing right now. So,
I mean, that's the thing is like, we know that they're a clear playoff team. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I mean, shit, I have no problem with them being ranked number 2. Do you?
Yeah. No, not at all. And they're probably going to be ranked number 1 after, the championship game in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was about to say, I was like, wait, are you going to say they're going to be ranked number 1 this week? Yeah. Ohio State's non-con is a fucking joke, Bootzilla. Like I get it. Their conference schedule is hard, but their non-con, they should be penalized for their fucking non-con, in my opinion. What is it? Marshall, Akron. Who's the third team? Western Michigan. Marshall, Akron, Western Michigan. Fuck off. They are not the hardest schedule in the fucking country. Just on that.
Yeah. And if today teaches us anything, it's that the perception of a conference doesn't necessarily reflect the actual quality. You can't just assume that because a team has beaten up on shitty non-conference competition that they'll do that against better non-conference competition, the SEC being the example. And true, the SEC beat itself up today. So how can you say, that proves anything except that maybe the SEC has depth? And the reason it proves something is because the teams they lost to non-conference, like Auburn lost to Cal, So,
Vanderbilt lost to Georgia State. Yeah. I will say this: Ohio State's schedule is harder than I thought it was coming into the season because Indiana ended up being good, but I don't know. I kind of thought Michigan would be a lot better. We knew Oregon and Penn State were going to be good. And Iowa would be
Michigan's
Iowa.
A tricky one.
Yeah.
Michigan's a tricky one because
I thought Michigan was going to be a lot better this year.
What are they, 6-5 right now?
They're going to go 6-6.
Yeah, I would think I would have at least had them winning 8 this year.
Yeah,
that's true.
Shout out to Brian Sanders. This season has been great. It really has, man. And Ohio State looked great today. Sets up the game next week. I mean, that's the fun element of all this. Like I said, Miami at Syracuse next week, Georgia Tech at Georgia. I kind of I don't think Michigan can go into Ohio State and win, but the Michigan looked good today. And they did add Biff Poggi to the staff, but
it is about matchups. What Ohio State was able to do over and over and over on Indiana, and I think also Ohio State benefited from the weather a little bit. Indiana is not necessarily a power football team. They spread you out with the pass, and then they spread you out with the run horizontally and create lanes. And that wasn't quite as open just because there was precipitation. I think that impacted the passing game. It allowed Ohio State to, bunch the line of scrimmage. But even without that, I think Ohio State is better, equipped to stop Indiana just because of their dominance in the trenches. They won't have that advantage on Michigan. And so if you just can't rely on one thing to completely overpower the other team, then you have to outcoach them a little more. Now, granted, I thought Ryan Day had an amazing game plan today, but it might not be so easy next week against Michigan.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the rivalry games are rivalry games, but look, I'm with you in the chat. I hate November games where they say the season is more important. They forgive losses like the Northern Illinois loss to Notre Dame because it was in the beginning of the season. And yet the SEC and like Clemson and Florida State schedule all these FCSs or say UTEP this late in the season. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still say, like, at the same time, you said, well, Ohio State doesn't play FCSs. Honestly, Akron is an FCS.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, like a lot of FCS teams that play would put it on Akron. You know what I mean? Colorado played North Dakota State. I would lay 24 points with North Dakota State against Akron.
Yeah. What the real metric should be. And I wish they had this. I'm sure some websites have it, but it's not readily available, or I haven't found it yet, is where they rank on a metrics standpoint. I would assume, a lot of the FCS is in the top 100, the likes of Montana State, the likes of North Dakota State, the likes of South Dakota State. So I would think a bottom 100 would be a better metric.
A perfect example is this. Akron beat Colgate this year 31-20, an 11-point game. Colgate is 2-9 in the FCS.
Yeah.
Akron lost to St. Francis last year. So, I mean,
they're essentially an FCS.
And not even a good FCS. Like they wouldn't be in the top 25 in the FCS.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get the point though, and I'm on board. And you could play the game of like, well, you didn't know that Akron was going to be that bad. Well, yeah, you did. And this was one they added on the schedule. Like they were actually supposed to play Southern Miss, and they worked out some deal with Southern Miss played Kentucky. Akron was supposed to play Kentucky.
And does that really matter? Does that really matter? Indiana is catching crap for their schedule, and they had the national champion.
I will give Indiana shit.
National champion runner-up. I mean, yes, maybe their non-conference slate they should catch.
Yeah, they canceled a game pre-Signetti before they hired Signetti. They canceled a game against Louisville. They were supposed to play Louisville, and they replaced them with Western Illinois, who is a terrible FCS.
Maybe Indiana, from a non-conference standpoint, rightfully deserves criticism for their schedule.
I read an article about this though. Indiana studied the SEC schedules, and they said this is a way for us to come up and get more wins per season. Now they didn't think they'd go undefeated, but they just thought, why are we doing this? If you go to 7, 8 wins, 9 wins, you build on that. Look what Kentucky does a lot of years.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
It's paying dividends immediately.
Yeah, terrible overall though. Folks, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by mybookie.ag. Yes, SGPN started out with MyBookie, and now we're back and better than ever. Plus, there are props for every game, and they got the live dealer casino going. They got early cash out options too. Just a ton of great stuff. Head over to mybookie.ag. Use that promo code SGPN for 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Plus, they're going to give you a little $10 casino chip to get your beak wet. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rebet. Rebet is a brand new social sports book available in 45 different states. There's a huge market of betting opportunities that are available on Rebet, and it's easy to use and great for people in states where traditional sports books may not be, may be restricted, like California. Download Rebet in the App Store and use the promo code SGPN for 100% deposit match up to $100. That's Rebet, promo code SGPN. All right. Currently, Fresno still up 14. Colorado State is at the Fresno 40, but they have a 4th down coming up. USC just went up 6 against UCLA. Or actually, no, they're up 6. I don't know what just happened.
Yeah,
but
they just went up 6. They were just up 3 a second.
Okay. And Air Force clinging to a 3-point lead with under 10 seconds left against Nevada. Unbelievable. I'm going to lose that Nevada game. Back to everything though. Let's talk. Illinois Rutgers was a hilarious game. Illinois was down 31-30. Did you get eyes on this ending?
I did not get eyes on the ending. I'm surprised Rutgers came away, or Illinois came away with a win.
You didn't see the final play of the game?
I did not.
So Illinois is lining up for what is a 57-yard field goal, right?
Yeah.
They are down 1, 57-yard field goal. Schiano calls timeout. The kicker kicks the kick. You know how you call timeout and the kicker could still get the kick?
Yeah.
He kicks and it's way short. So then they rush the offense back out there, 4th and 11 or whatever. And they complete a 40-yard touchdown pass.
Oh, man.
And win the game. Unbelievable. Like, if you're a Rutgers fan, this is brutal. Like, you should, if you had just not called timeout, you won.
Yeah.
Unbelievable ending. Abner Lopez saying, Colby, Buffalo's Long Island and ECU is trash. Hey, fuck you, buddy. ECU came back and won. And Long Island, you picked the wrong day to say that. They won on the money line. Now, Colorado did suck today. I was terrified of that game, and we will talk about that. Also, shout out to Brian Sanders, who's ready for the FCS playoffs. That shit is fire. It really, really is. Patty C, what's hilarious here is Illinois moves to 8-3. Some would say that would be a phony 8-3 with a win like that, but that's what Penn State's clinging to. That's
Illinois.
what Penn State's clinging to. Is that
that's
their best win?
5-3 in conference. So yeah, they're out of that race, obviously. But a pretty darn impressive year for Illinois overall.
Hell yeah, I was on the over.
Nice call.
Should we be concerned that the Georgia Bulldogs and UMass was a game far too long? Now the final score says 59-21.
Yeah, I think Georgia is gonna have trouble in the playoffs, just like Ole Miss found trouble today against Florida. I think it's not gonna take great competition for Georgia to find themselves in a really close game, and that could be in the first round of the playoffs.
UMass is terrible, and they were moving the ball some on Georgia. Yeah. Now you could say they took the week off. I don't know, but I knew this. UMass had 351 yards of offense. That's actually
it's not the first time that's happened either. Mississippi State put 31 on Georgia. One time might be a fluke, but when bad teams are consistently able to kind of light up the scoreboard and the stat sheet on you, not a good look.
Yeah. Western Kentucky, Liberty wins by 17. I cashed. I bet the Flamin' Libs. And that sets us up. Liberty and Jacksonville State, right?
Hello. Is that the conference championship locked in?
I believe so. I think that's locked in now, right?
I know that there were big games next week.
I guess
right?
Liberty might have to win one more game, but I think Jacksonville State's locked in. Yeah, no, Sam Houston lost today. Yeah, I think it's locked in. I think we're good.
What about Western Michigan or Western Kentucky? Could they potentially
Liberty
get in?
Has one. I think Liberty's in though. I think because they would have the tiebreaker. Liberty would.
Okay.
Jimmy Chadwell, even in a down year.
Yeah, it's in there 9-2. Pretty nice year for Liberty again.
Kevin's saying Liberty has to beat Sam Houston or Western is in. How is that? Oh, because they lost twice in conference. Is that?
Yeah.
Because they lost to, I forgot they lost to Kennesaw and Jacksonville State. Okay. Interesting. And that's at Sam Houston too. Dangerous. That they could lose that game. Yeah. That's good.
Shoot, Sam Houston was 8-2 coming into this week. That is a under talked about story. That is a tremendous year too for a team that really struggled in year one.
Yeah. Tennessee 56, UTEP 0. Terrible fucking game.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to be impressed? Florida State 41, Charleston Southern 7. Am I supposed to be impressed?
Game. Yeah.
I did eat shit on this. I took Ball State in the points. Bowling Green drills them 38-13. Leffler, just doing it.
Pretty. Are they still in play for the MAC championship? Are they?
I believe they are. I believe the MAC championship. Well, they play Miami, Ohio next week, and I believe the winner of that. Yeah, the winner of
Miami,
that goes.
Bowling Green, and Ohio are all 6-1 right now. So
yeah. And Ohio ends the season with Ball State. I think Ohio has the tiebreaker on Buffalo, if memory serves me correct. Yeah, so I think Ohio's penciled in. Ohio's either playing Miami, Ohio, or Bowling Green.
Nice,
fantastic. Yeah, ate shit there. But let's Rice gets smoked by Trent Dilfer and UAB. They get their third win of the season. I don't know what to make of the UAB situation. Will he be back? Who knows?
Yeah.
But
good question.
Yeah.
Let me see. UAB was the that was impressive. They were impressive a couple times toward the end of the year, but then they got to get UAB's schedule pulled up. I feel like they also had some very unimpressive performances too.
Oh yeah, they got their ass whooped in a lot of games. But I don't know. I don't know what to deduce from that. But I know what to deduce from this. My money line plays were awesome today. Whether Boston College, whether Oklahoma, whether Ole Miss, or whether the App State Mountaineers. 34-20. App State gets it done against your JMU Dukes. You don't just walk into Kid Brewer and get the dub.
We gave that game away. We had more first downs, more total yards. We had the
block
time
punt for touchdown was brutal.
Yeah, time possession 10 minutes in our favor. 35
Very similar to
25.
Indiana, by the way. What, it was like a minute left before the half?
Yeah, just complete like
Block
lack
punt
of
for
focus.
touchdown. Yeah.
Complete like I'm sorry. This is not something that we saw happening under fucking Bob, or no, it is happening under Bob Chesney. It wasn't happening under Kurt Signetti. They're a little more risky with the football, and they lose it more often, and they have knuckleheaded plays. Signetti doesn't. Today he did. Today they had that drop punt, but typically he is not the kind of guy that has a mistake-prone team.
Yeah. Keanu mentioning Kansas became the first FBS team ever with a losing record to win 3 straight games against ranked teams. We knew that they were way better than their record. I didn't take Kansas today because they're playing my Buffs, but
honestly, Kansas is like one of the tragedies of the 2024 college football season because of where we projected them and them actually being that good. But, they just had to find their offensive identity without Kotelnicki calling the shots early on. And it took a while, but they're there. They might be the best team in the Big 12.
Dude, I was saying this because last week, I got into the argument with Pate and those guys. They're saying South Carolina would beat BYU and I forget who else, SMU and Miami or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what are you fucking saying? They still lost 3 games. So I was like, Kansas would beat Tennessee. I feel like Kansas would beat Tennessee if they played right now. I would take Kansas to beat Tennessee. Right.
That would be an interesting game. I don't know.
Tennessee doesn't have the offense. I don't think they have the offense. I think Kansas would win that game. Now
it's possible. Yeah.
If it's a neutral, I would like Kansas's chances.
Based on how they've been playing in the last 3 games, I would give Kansas maybe a slight favorite in that game.
Well, if it was in Neyland, then I would say, okay, maybe, that home edge, but I don't know. I just don't think Tennessee's offense is any good. So it's like, I think that would be a very favorable matchup for Kansas, but, and not only them, I think Penn State, I think Kansas could give Penn State a game right now.
Yeah, sure.
Shit. You tell me Kansas plays Notre Dame tomorrow. You feel pretty good about Notre Dame's chances?
It's tough to say. Notre Dame has throttled some pretty good competition.
Nobody.
Army was undefeated coming into the game.
But Army and Navy don't count. They don't even do scholarships. Right?
Yeah. Still, they have beaten every team on their schedule, and that includes some decent teams.
I just feel like it just shouldn't. Yes, great win, Army, great season, but Notre Dame should beat Army every fucking year, whether they're 5-7, whether they're 4-8.
There are certain teams, that they just can't match up within the trenches. The straight blue bloods is going to be hard for the service academies.
Anyway, App State still alive to make a bowl and still alive to ruin Georgia Southern's season in the deeper than hate rivalry that happens next week. New Mexico State goes to Murfreesboro and beats Middle Tennessee 36-21. Middle Tennessee gets FIU next week. They're probably going to be 3-9 to end the season. Although FIU collapsed today. Oh, what a fucking collapse. Remember all those people that talk shit about Stockstill?
Yeah.
How's it going?
3-9. Not looking
How's it
so
going
sharp
over there?
Yeah.
Those 6, 7, 8 win seasons that you said, we're never winning Conference USA championships. I'd still take those 6, 7, 8 win seasons. Remember, he was beating Mizzou. He was beating Maryland, beating some other teams I'm drawing a blank on. Yeah.
Yeah. Middle Tennessee was a pretty solid program there for how long was he at the helm?
Like 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe a down year here and there, but for the most part, they're bowling most years. So good luck getting back to that level.
This is my point. Spencer says Army did not play a team in the top 85.
Any decent teams. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Still, look, kudos to them.
Most of the teams they play.
But to me, if you told me, a lot of teams would beat Army and Navy. A lot of power teams would beat Army and Navy.
Yeah, probably.
Now, maybe they don't beat them as impressively. So kudos for being that impressive. But there's still not a lot of meat on the bone on on Notre Dame's schedule to me.
It's tough to criticize Notre Dame because, they're handling their business. But you're right. It's kind of the same thing as Army. It's like if you're beating up on inferior competition, does that really tell you much about that team? Probably not.
Yeah. TCU absolutely waxed Arizona 49-28. I do love how it sets up for Arizona potentially to ruin Arizona State's Big 12.
Man.
The Dust Bowl is going to be, the Territorial Cup. It's in Tucson, I believe, if memory serves me correct.
Man, yeah. The potential's there.
That could be quite hilarious. This is what makes it better with a 12-team playoff. Think of that West Virginia Pitt game that everybody references with LaShawn McCoy and Wanstead upsetting a WVU team that was about to play in the championship game. You get so many of these now. ULM did lose to Arkansas State, and they basically are ruining their chances to go bowling. Nice play on the Arkansas State side of things.
What did ULM start the season? Were they 5-0?
5-1, I think. 5-1. Yeah, 5-6 now. So we'll see the
tide turn.
Bayou Classic next week. Charlotte, no Biff Poggi, no problem. 39-27 win over Florida Atlantic. They go to 4-7, and I believe I just cashed my win total over on Charlotte.
Oh,
there we go. I didn't think they would fire Biff Poggi. Did not have that as even in the realm of possibilities. But 39-27, they get it done. Kennesaw State battles back. I mean, they were getting their ass kicked early. They battle back and get the win against FIU. This might have sealed Mike McIntyre's fate. This might have done it.
27,
this might have done it. Yeah, it was 26-17 going in the fourth. Kennesaw scores 10 in the fourth to get the win. That job might open. Keep an eye on that one.
Wins on the season for the Owls of Kennesaw State. So
they're getting that pit bowl money. Who could FIU hire? Or FAU
was
hire?
It FAU that was rumored for Ray Lewis? One of those.
Yeah, but that got shot down by.
Really?
Yeah, it seemed like the internet started that one. South Alabama and Fluff Bothwell whacked Southern Miss, but I do believe Southern Miss got the cover. I don't remember exactly what that spread was, but I didn't bet that. I did bet this though.
Morgantown, you'll always be home sweet home to me.
West Virginia 31, UCF 21, and UCF moves to 4-7 on the season.
Yeah, I mean, his seat's got to be heating up. I don't know how long. Who's our guy down there?
Gus Malzahn. Yeah,
Malzahn will be. This is year 2 there.
Year 3.
Year 3. Okay, yeah, maybe it's time for him to go. What do you think? Are they going to can him or?
They have this thing. There's less firings because they got to pay the players a bunch of money because this lawsuit. It's backdated. So like there's less firings. That's why Mac Brown might be back. That's why Florida kept Napier. That's why even though the Florida Napier thing is looking good.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them. Dave Aranda at Baylor. Malzahn might get saved by that, but yeah, I have a lot of questions about UCF moving forward. Neil Brown might get fired. 6 wins, head to Lubbock. They're probably going to go 6-6 if I had to guess. What do you do with Neil Brown? Do you fire him? I think we talked about this last week. Pat McAfee's made a big donation,
I think it's fair to fire him at 6-6. I think you should have higher expectations if you're West Virginia.
Yeah. Clemson 51, Citadel 14. Next. Penn State 26, Minnesota 25. I want to talk about this because I do have a problem with Penn State being number 4. I don't believe this team's that good. I really don't. I actually, in a way, kind of think Minnesota was the better team on the field today. Penn State just somehow got it done. Right? Now, kudos for them getting it done.
Total yardage, they did outgain them by looks like 80 yards, 361 to 281 in Penn State's favor. Although Minnesota dominated time of possession 34 to 26.
And Penn State was 1 of 11 on third down. Minnesota was 5 of 12. Like, I feel like they got fortunate to get out of this one, but you cannot, I'm just not sold on them being the 4th team in the nation. I just am. I wasn't sold before.
Consider that they were at the goal line and had 4 shots from inside the 3 or 4 yard line to beat Ohio State. Otherwise they'd be undefeated and arguably the number 1 team in the nation. So it's tough for me to agree with you entirely. You might be right that they're not top 4, but I can't put them outside the top 8, right now for me. I don't think they've proven.
But
that
what's the
anyone
wins?
else has proven they're much better than Penn State.
This is what I think the committee needs to do, but they're not going to do this because it's ridiculous. I think you should sit there and say, what is a good win? Right?
Yeah.
What is a good win? A marquee win that each team has, right?
And it's always going to vary from situation to situation because no 2 teams on the resume are exactly the same, but you can have ballpark ideas of what constitutes a good win.
Yes. And I think if they did that, they would come across Oregon and they would say, well, they beat Boise State and Ohio State. Those are 2 good wins.
Clearly very good wins.
Yes. After that, it gets a little bleak, right? But like the same Penn State, you're sitting there, you're trying to convince yourself that Illinois is a good win. That's their best win. And I don't know if it's a great win. I think it's a decent win. You should tier these
West
things
Virginia's
somehow.
an okay win.
I mean, they're 6. They're going to go 6-6, dude.
Yeah, those aren't good wins. What is Wisconsin's record?
5-6 right now.
Yeah, you're right. There's not one even. I don't know if there's one good win. I guess Illinois.
That's what I'm saying. Illinois is the one you're convincing yourself, but I would put that further back than other teams. If that's your best win and you're comparing that with, say, even Tennessee, if you're matching Tennessee's resume to Penn State's, Tennessee beat Alabama, which is a better win than Illinois to me. So I would then have to put Tennessee above Penn State just on that. Even though I just talked a bunch of shit about Tennessee. Tennessee's schedule was garbage for the most part. But
well, I'll say this. I would give Penn State credit for a bunch of solid wins. Whether that be Washington, Wisconsin, maybe USC.
Does Wisconsin
maybe
count as a solid win?
It's a decent Big Ten team. They've managed to. I mean, I think it's an okay win. Minnesota, I think it's a solid win.
Minnesota is a solid win. That their top 2 wins to me, if I had to rank it, would be Illinois and Minnesota.
Yeah.
So
and they don't lose those games, and so
and that's
you
the thing.
Give them credit for that.
And that's the thing, I guess. Actually, no, Tennessee has 2 losses, so I would put Penn State above Tennessee. Tennessee lost to Arkansas. I apologize. In my mind, I thought Tennessee had 1 loss for a second. I retract my statement. But I'm just saying, Penn State, who have you beaten? Tennessee's lost twice, and one of them is to a shitty Arkansas team. So you can't have Tennessee above Penn State.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, who else? Would you have SMU?
Just 100%. 100%. Yes, they're beaten. I mean, their only loss is to be in a 3-point game. SMU has beat TCU, who's got 7 wins, right? They've beat. TCU is the same as fucking Illinois to me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, totally. Okay. And then who else has SMU beat? They beat Virginia. They beat Boston College. I guess Boston College is kind of like Minnesota. Boston College and Minnesota are a wash.
What is Boston? Is Boston College 6-4?
6-5, I think right now.
5, and then I guess Minnesota after this week is 2.
6-5, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's a wash. I mean,
who else did
Minnesota
SMU
lost to North Carolina, and Boston College destroyed them today. So,
wait, who else did SMU play?
Louisville. That's a decent one.
That's better than anything on their fucking resume.
Still,
that's a better win, dude. Louisville is better than
slightly better resume than Penn State. I still don't. I would take Penn State to beat SMU.
Okay, but I might too. But I don't like the hypothetical. I think they should base this on
mainly
what is your resume. Yeah.
agree.
Do you have good wins? To me, the Louisville win and the Duke win. What the fuck are we talking about? Duke's 8-3.
SMU beat Duke. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
at Duke.
Okay. Yeah.
So Louisville and Duke and Pitt. What are we talking about? Their resume is way
it
better.
is what? It is what though?
7-3, right? 7-3.
Are they?
7-4 now. 7-4 because they lost today. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe SMU does have some more quality wins on there.
They have a better resume, dude. They have there's no denying a better resume because you're sitting there and you're like
Duke is sitting there what, like 8-3 now?
8-3. TCU is what, 7-4.
Pitt 7-4.
Louisville is 7-4.
Yeah, you're right.
They have a much better resume.
They do have a much better resume. Yeah.
And get this, if they get Cal's another bowl team next week. So
It's not a good win at this point. It's but you give Cal credit for some early
Cal's
season
6-5 right now. But I'm just saying, I mean, Cal won at Auburn.
Yeah. Got to give him credit for that.
No, in my opinion, I think SMU should be a lot ahead of Penn State.
I mean, if you're going to base your rankings on what they've accomplished on their resume, absolutely.
This is what they should do. You should say, what are the good wins? If I'm deeming SMU's good wins, I would say they don't have an elite win, right? But they have good wins. Duke, Louisville, Pitt, and after that, BC and Cal would be, assuming they beat Cal, would be other. And TCU, did I mention? Yeah, I actually put TCU, Louisville, Duke, and Pitt in one level that is on the same level as Illinois and Minnesota to me.
Yeah. I mean, the top of their resume is way higher. You probably give Penn State a little more credit for losing close to Ohio State than you do SMU losing close against
BYU. Sure.
Yeah, BYU.
Sure. But SMU's played a harder gauntlet to me than Penn State.
Yeah, you're right,
100%. But that's what they should be doing for all this. I don't think it's as complex as people think. It's funny hearing some of these fucking people talk about it. Like, I have a big decision. I don't think it's that fucking complex. I think it's like,
come up with a rating, come up with a system that you can make consistent, and then apply it consistently across the board.
Yes. Folks, want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em is one of the biggest menus for all the sports: college football, college basketball, NFL, MMA, CFL, NBA, NHL, NASCAR, everything, and much more. You can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries as well. So sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $1,000 with bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner. Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, props. You can copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard. Probably make money. Or you can build your own, like old Pick Dundee here, and then it will build around that. And now you can track the props in the Rhythm app, which is fantastic. They just introduced college basketball. They got college football, NBA, NFL, all that stuff. They got it all. Rhythm does. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. All right, we are back. Shout out to the chat, rocking along. YouTube.com/the college experience. Get on over there. Like Patty C, let's compare Miami's resume to SMU's. Like Miami's good wins are what? Florida?
That's looking like a decent win at this point.
But that's about it. Louisville. So they both beat Louisville. They both beat Duke. And Florida is what? 6-5.
Yeah.
See, to me, like the loss to BYU is better than the loss to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think you're right. I think
SMU should be ahead of Miami. They should be ahead of Miami. Yeah.
Now, Miami got boosted by really great performances early in the season, completely knocking out their first 4 opponents out of the park. But, they haven't been really heavily punished by their close performances after that and their loss. It only dropped them to, 8 in the AP poll. And SMU is just fighting generational perception issues where Miami obviously has –
perception should have nothing to do with it, and that's ridiculous. Yeah. You get this new this new era of college football where anybody can. I mean, they just spent $150 million. That perception alone, if they're going to do perception, should put SMU in the top 5.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's
like,
true. Well, I will say that the more often we see this, the more times, the more iterations of the college football playoff that we encounter and see good teams just pop up and have great seasons, and then hopefully win a playoff game or two and legitimize like their place in the playoff. Then I think hopefully the pollsters and the committee become more receptive to the idea that a team can just be as good as they look on a year-to-year basis or on a 1-year basis.
Yeah. And shout out to R Right giving us $25 saying Fire Day. There's a decent chance the Big 12 champ may not make it in lieu of Boise and Tulane. That's an interesting angle to pay attention to. And also Rob Donaldson, what he does know is that SMU hasn't lost to Vanderbilt, Kentucky, LSU, Florida, or Northern Illinois or Arkansas. All great points. All great points.
Let me ask you this. Is there any chance we see 3 ACC teams in? If Clemson destroys South Carolina, and South Carolina is sitting here with 3 losses and on the same footing as like Alabama, which
they probably should, if I'm being honest. Let's say Clemson destroys South Carolina next week.
Yeah, they beat
30-point win.
Yeah,
say 42-10 final.
A 2-loss Clemson with their only losses being to Georgia, who could be the SEC champion and the 2 seed in the college football playoff. If your loss is to a 2 seed and then say Louisville beats Kentucky next week, which is looking very possible, granted that's going to be a good game, and that an 8-4 Louisville, those are 2 pretty darn good losses for Clemson.
Yeah, and then you'd have to have SMU Miami play like a field goal game in the ACC championship. Here's the thing: they won't do that, but I agree that there probably should be. Now, let me ask you the other side of that coin is what if say Iowa State or say BYU or Arizona State or whatever. Okay, let's say Arizona State misses out with 2 losses or BYU. Let's say Iowa State misses out with 2 losses, 10-2. They miss out the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
And you have, I don't know, Arizona State beat BYU or Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Iowa State then would say, hey, we're sitting here 10-2. And I believe both their losses are actually they lost to Kansas, which actually would be a bad loss, even though it shouldn't be. But
they'd certainly have an argument. I do think
their other loss was Texas Tech, who would win like 8 games. Right.
I saw someone breaking it down. I posted it on Twitter. Apparently, I think right now Iowa State versus Arizona State looks like the most likely Big 12 championship matchup.
The problem is, though, I don't think you can say that's most likely because they play Kansas State. That game is insane.
Who does?
You know what I mean? Like Iowa State,
yeah.
Like they have. That's if they beat. It's most likely if they win out. And you're like, man, in my opinion, Colorado's got the easiest opponent left. They play Oklahoma State in Boulder, right?
Yeah.
Iowa State's got Farmageddon, right? Arizona State has to play at arch rival Arizona. And then BYU actually has a nice one. Actually, BYU's home to Houston. So I have no idea that it's just.
So you're saying if they, because whoever the Big 12,
let's say Kansas State beats Iowa State. Very likely
in the Big 12.
Right?
Oh yeah. Well, no, Iowa State's out then. Iowa State's out.
That's what I'm saying. And let's say Arizona State loses at Arizona, which I think could happen, right?
Yeah.
I think it's BYU playing Houston. I think it's pretty unlikely that Houston goes into BYU and wins, but it's possible.
Yeah.
And I think Colorado beating Oklahoma State's probable, but I mean, it wouldn't shock me if these things happen. But so in that, then you would have BYU Colorado.
Or would it be Arizona State? No, yeah, you're right.
No, because they'd have a third loss. Yeah. I
mean, whoever wins the Big 12, and I'll say this about the Big 12 too. Kansas State beating Tulane early in the season is probably humongously important for the Big 12 because Tulane, assuming
and they did it on a horseshit call too.
Yeah,
absolutely horseshit call.
But that pretty much I think secures the Big 12's spot as the fifth conference champion that gets in automatically. So whoever comes out of the Big 12 is going to get in. I seriously doubt at this point the Big 12 is going to send a second team.
Well, I'm just saying, couldn't you play that same argument if Iowa State beats K-State and they get left out? You know,
with the loss in the conference, I mean, if they somehow
no, even better. Actually, I'm sorry, don't use Iowa State. Use BYU. BYU beats Houston 10-2, and they have a win over SMU, who could be the ACC champ.
Yeah, they do. They have a very. I mean, in fact, if it comes down to that tiebreaker, you got to put BYU in over SMU. You have to.
Yeah. The Colorado State Fresno game is getting interesting right now with 17 seconds left. Colorado State just made it a 1-score game, so we're gonna have an onside kick situation, I think, coming.
I think that does open the door for a second Big 12 team.
No, they're not going to put 2 in, but I think they should. But it's a crooked game from the start.
A little more carnage, you know. If the SEC, I mean, do you think any of the 3-loss SEC teams have a chance at this point?
I mean, I personally think Alabama should be eliminated because Oklahoma and Vanderbilt suck. They're going to go 6-6. Both of those teams.
Yeah, Alabama absolutely should be out.
Yeah. They should be just eliminated for today, in my opinion. Whereas the other ones, we'll see, you know. Texas, I mean, we'll get to Texas in a second here. I want to just continue chronologically. Where was I at here? Tulsa get waxed by South Florida. What the fuck was this? 63-30.
From week to week, it's impossible to know what South Florida team is going to show up. I mean, I guess it's been a couple.
And what
weeks
Tulsa team too? I mean, there's times where Tulsa looks all right, but Texas Tech 56, Oklahoma State 48. Patty C. Mike Gundy moves to 3-8 on a team that brought back like 18 starters. What the hell happened
Doak
here?
Walker Award winner. That's one of the great questions. How the hell did that happen? I have no idea. Is he out the door? Do you think?
I get the vibe that he's going to retire or something. I just get that vibe. But Texas Tech 7-4, probably going to go 8-4 with the West Virginia win next week in Lubbock.
Pretty solid year for Joey McGuire.
Yeah. Wait, Colorado State just got the 2. They got a 2-point conversion, so now they're only down 6 with 17 seconds left. We should not say it's going to be UNLV and Boise, because if Colorado State gets an onside kick and somehow scores, they win. Georgia Southern 26, Coastal Carolina 6. Clay Helton didn't fumble this one. I'm sure it'll be next. The next one.
Why did they go for 2 right there?
I don't understand that. Just to steal the win, I guess.
I guess you
wouldn't you do it on the last touchdown?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. 17 seconds. What are you going to get? 2 field goals?
I guess. Wouldn't that be hilarious if they got the onside kick and just booted like a 55-yard field goal and then did it again? We got this one. We got this one, guys.
Great kicker. He's graded onside kick.
Yeah.
You can kick it a 60-yarder.
These games were fire. And this is why college football, you could try to build all this shit of like, they're going to separate Big Ten and SEC. And I don't care. I mean, yes, I don't want it to happen, but Cal Stanford was amazing today. I don't know if you caught any of this game. Stanford was up 21-7, I think, going into the 4th, and lost 24-21. I cashed on Stanford plus 14, but these games always deliver.
Yeah.
These fucking hippie schools deliver in a class. That's why college football is great, though. You can't. It's too spread out. There's too much. I watched the Brawl of the Wild today. I watched this. You just get contrast everywhere, and it's just fantastic. And they try to. The TV execs don't understand that. They don't understand that. You can't take that.
I saw Fernando Mendoza crying after the game. Pretty, pretty passionate. Pretty emotional.
Dude, Cal's the best 6-win team in the country because they could easily be undefeated.
Yeah.
Cal's 6 losses. Ready for this? 5-point loss at Florida State where they missed 3 field goals. 1-point loss to Miami on a complete terrible.
They were up by what? 20 points on.
Yeah, illegal man downfield on the game-winning touchdown too. Not only illegal men down the field. 2-point loss to Pitt where they missed a 27-yard field goal. Right, 1 point loss to NC State where they missed a 29-yard field goal to win the game, and then a 8-point loss to Syracuse. This team should be 11-1. This team should be fucking 11-1.
I think we had them at what, 9 or 10 wins.
Yeah.
I think we had them at like 8, but we said we thought they would be. We projected them to actually win 10 of those games.
One good kicker and some decent calls.
Yeah,
they're a 10 or 11 win team.
They are the
unbelievable
SMU of the ACC this year.
Yes,
well, that's actually, you're right, going to be an interesting game next week. But it doesn't really matter because, all that matters for is an at-large bid for SMU, which is, I guess, a pretty big thing to worry about.
Yeah, illegal offensive line downfield is what they should have ruled. Not offensive line men. The whole goddamn team. All 5 of them were like 10 yards. They're in the back of the end zone signing autographs. How about these Pirates, buddy? Down 21-0 to North Texas. They battle back, win 40-28. They go on a 40-7 run. Patty C.
Who's the interim coach?
Blake Harrell.
Blake Harrell.
And you know what that is? I cashed the win total over.
Oh,
I cashed, and guess what? They get Navy next week, which I think is a very winnable game.
Absolutely.
And this is what I mean by the favorable schedule. ECU actually should have went 10-2 or 11-1 this year. They probably they were in the App State and Liberty games, blew 17-point leads in both those games.
Oof.
I mean, when you really think about it, they had a very easy schedule. I don't know that they're that great this year, but I think they're a bowl team. But it was all about the schedule. And this is another point about the schedule. Yeah. But even right now, sitting there at 7 wins and probably going to go 8-4, they're more of a 6-6 type team to me. It's just the way the schedule aligned. And that's where I think it can all be phony. I did eat shit on Northwestern plus 11 points.
Yeah. Wow.
50-6. Where the hell was this? Biff Poggi. See what happens? They bring Biff Poggi on board and good Lord.
What's weird about this game is that from a statistical standpoint, it doesn't seem like Michigan should have won by this many points. I got to get it pulled up, but I don't think there was that so huge of a yardage disparity for it to be a 44-point win. Team stats total. Oh, never mind. I am 396 total yards. I guess that's what I was impressed by to manage 50 points off of less than 400 total yards, but. Northwestern only 127, only 2 turnovers, but it must have just been 3 and out all day for Northwestern.
Yeah. Abner is asking early prediction for Army Navy in FedEx, which I'm trying to go to. Who's got the hookup on tickets, right? By the way?
Is it FedEx or Northwest?
I'm gonna have to. I still would teeter towards Army. It's gonna be a good game though. I don't have strong conviction to either side, but Patty C, shout out
Army Navy game. You would figure, they both just slam each other in the trenches and 13-16 final, something like that.
Yeah. Wisconsin got rolled 44-25 by Nebraska. Nebraska's finally got that bowl drought over with.
Congrats.
Wisconsin's fucking horrible.
Yeah. They're going to have to retool that offense completely. Do you have any idea what direction they're going to go post Dairy Raid?
I don't know, but I think Fickle should be on the hot seat, man.
Yeah.
I mean, to lose by 20 at Nebraska.
It's getting whooped. Nebraska's not that good.
What are Wisconsin's wins? Their wins are Western Michigan by 14, South Dakota by 14, and FCS. Purdue, they did whoop Purdue's ass, but Purdue's terrible. Rutgers, they did whoop their ass. That's their best win of the season. 20-point win against Northwestern, and that's it.
Yeah,
they're terrible. They're turning into a doormat. I was all over Nebraska, by the way. I will cash that. I was also on the Kentucky Wildcats, and they covered. Let me tell you something, buddy. The chat was talking about this earlier. And I saw, Brock Vandergrift got injured after 7 throws, threw a touchdown pass. and then he gets injured after 7 fucking passes.
Yeah.
I don't think Texas is that good, dude, but I don't know because they never play starting quarterbacks. It's unbelievable the luck in 2 years that this team has encountered on the injury front on the quarterback spot. Texas, let's talk about resume here. We talked Penn State and SMU. Penn
They
State
may have benefited most of anyone today, Texas.
Why is that?
Just because despite their terrible resume, they're not going to get bumped by some of the other SEC teams. Even if they take an L next week, they'll still be 10-2.
But the resume is garbage, absolute garbage.
Still,
they have
Texas,
the worst
they're
resume.
that brand name, and one of their losses is going to be to Georgia.
I'm trying to take that argument out of it, though, the brand name, because I'm saying, okay, if everything goes the way we think it is, Michigan is a big dog to Ohio State. Vanderbilt's a big dog to Tennessee. Their best win is a 6-6 win, either against either Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, or Michigan. And I want to add in that Michigan and Oklahoma were starting quarterbacks they don't use. Vanderbilt is the only quarterback they faced that was their starter all year.
Yeah, and they squeaked by, and he was banged up during the game.
I'm just saying that's an unbelievable. That schedule is so bad. That is the worst resume probably in the top 25. Yeah, unless they beat A&M. If they lose to A&M, they have the worst resume in the top 25.
No decent wins even.
Because even Notre Dame has a win over Louisville. That's an 8-win team. And a win over A&M. They already beat A&M. This is the worst resume out there. If everything goes strong.
What I'm curious is, like, Josh Pate already declared that if Texas loses, they should be out. Now, I think he could probably make a legitimate argument that would be, with the fact that there would be some other 10-2 SEC teams that would be put in front of Texas at that point. But since a few of those are not there anymore, A&M and Ole Miss and Alabama.
Yeah.
But everyone was in agreement with you, though, that Texas had a terrible resume and that they needed to beat A&M.
Florida is not a decent win to me for Texas because they play their 4th-string fucking quarterback who was a walk-on. It's the first start of his career. Like, I get it. That's going to look good because Florida's going to go 7-5 because they're going to beat Florida State.
Yeah,
but
you got to take
that's going to be. It's ridiculous to me. Like, they've played nobody, absolutely nobody.
Still, I mean, the reality of the situation. I know you may have a point, and if we ended up comparing resumes, I think Texas would be on the fringe, maybe on the outside.
Boise State has a better resume.
Yeah, I think Boise State absolutely deserves to be in it over Texas at this point. But I mean, assuming Texas loses to A&M,
yeah.
But what's it called? I think the reality of the situation is they want a few SEC teams in there, and Texas at 10-2. With a loss to Georgia and a loss to A&M, is probably going to get in there. I don't know if it's right. I mean, I could be wrong.
No, they'll put them in. No. If I had to bet, they'll put them in. But I can't wait for it because we're going to record a show just shitting on it because they claim to look at resume.
Well, it will be.
They can no longer look at resume. They can no longer validate that they look at resume. If they lose to A&M. And they put Texas in over a 1 loss or even 2. Think about that. Texas would have 2 losses. But this is a perfect example, Patty C. If BYU doesn't play in the Big 12 championship.
Yeah. 10-2 BYU, 10-2 Texas.
Yes. And then BYU has a win at SMU, who would be in the fucking field.
Yeah.
Right? Would be in the 12-team playoff potentially. Right? Also, they have what? They have a win against Kansas State, who was going to be like an 8-win team or something, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, now that you mention it, that SMU Miami game in the ACC championship, if SMU does manage to win the ACC, then it's almost a guarantee that that bumps BYU into the playoff over the Lakes. But I could see them ignoring it a little more if SMU loses to Miami. So, but I agree with you. I think BYU's resume will be superior to Texas's at the end of the year.
If Texas loses to Texas A&M, but like by a wide margin to me.
Yeah, fair. SMU's we just went over will be much better, and SMU at 11-2, Texas at 10-2. It's going to be very hard for them to justify putting Texas over SMU, but you know damn well they will.
They will, and that's why you can't do 12 teams. You have to do more than 12 teams because the corruption is so bad in this sport. As much as I love the sport, and I'm talking about Cal Stanford and Lehigh throwing a goalpost in the fucking river. That is why you have to have a large playoff. You got to have 32 teams, like minimum. To me, I know you laugh at that, but when you have this much corruption nonstop, you have to weed out the corruption.
Yeah,
because even with the 32 team, they would still have corruption on the seeding. So at least you could say, well, you got in, and even though the seeding wasn't right, you got in.
You talk about tearing down the goalpost, though. They certainly have moved the goalpost on that. A lot of them were arguing this week in the chat. I think it's Fornelli of all people was arguing that the SEC he'll be disgusted if they don't get 5 teams in the playoff. And I went back and did the research since the start of the college football playoff in 2014. Over those 10 seasons, only 3 times or no time ever has a team put 5 teams in the playoffs. Now, recently, no time has a conference put 5 teams in the playoff.
Wait. Oh, in the exercise, you're saying?
In the exercise, what would be the 12-team field?
Okay.
There would never have been 5 teams from the same conference in the playoff. And so at most it would be 4. Now I did it with Texas and Oklahoma being included as part of the SEC, even though they were playing a Big 12 schedule, which is a completely different thing and a lot less likely for them to still emerge as a playoff resume at that point. But even still, only 3 times in 10 years would 5 teams have gone from the SEC. And most of the time that's Oklahoma joining. One time it was Texas, obviously, last year. So that is the exception. That is the great exception. And yet now people are claiming like, oh, this is a must. We must have 5 SEC teams in there. And it's like that's going to keep happening. Whether you expand it to 16, the expectation is just going to keep going up that the SEC gets first bid into the playoff.
Which is why you need to expand. Like you gotta put more teams in. If you're working with a jaded deck from when you start the season before the ball is ever kicked off, which they are, then you need to make it big enough where you can weed out that can still be overcome.
Yeah, because
with it being this corrupt, you can't stock. And to me, that's why I think you should have auto bids. I know we have 4, but I would want every conference just because
I think a lot of it would be figured out with conference 14 playoffs, just like you're in the playoff.
I like that idea too. I like that idea too. But do something because it's just too corrupt. South Carolina 56, Wofford 12. Okay. Arizona State 28, BYU 23. Kenny Dillingham almost fucked this game up with some terrible coaching down the stretch, but Arizona State, I had a large wager on the Sun Devils. They get it done. Patty C. This is a great story in Tempe there. Is it going to come crashing down in Tucson next week?
Oh. Did Arizona play today? What did they do?
They lost at TCU.
That's right. They haven't been playing as well lately, Arizona.
No, they're kind of shitty, but they're still weird though. They're like a weird shitty team. Like they're capable of being they're capable of beating some decent teams because they still have Fafita and the stud wideout. I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, McMillan and I like Conley at the running back spot as well. But what a season. Of course. And what a season for Arizona State. I mean, you're talking if they go and if they go 10-2, what a fucking year. Dillingham at his press conference saying, invest. We need more money. We're going to do this. We're going to be the team to beat. I love it.
Right there. I mean, we looked at it. I was convinced that Arizona State, we said preseason, I asked you, who do you thought would be the class of the Big 12 historically, given their historical records over the last 30 years. And one of the first teams you said was Arizona State, and I agreed. I look back, Arizona State hasn't had that many great years, but they have had great talent. And you pointed out that
they're like NC State.
Yeah, NC State and Pitt were the two teams you said, and I
Yeah,
went back and I
Pitt,
looked
yeah.
at the number of draft picks, and they were all in that same area. They were all hovering in the low 30s, 30, 31, 32. So some of the more talented teams, especially within their own conference, within what is the Big 12, those would probably be, and if you're the 30th most draft picks, you're probably like the most talented team in the Big 12.
And you know what's we've always said they're a sleeping giant, because Arizona, if you go to Arizona, I spent a lot of time in Arizona. No one gives a fuck about the Cardinals, right? It's like a fucking, you could hit delete from, they're not even going to notice.
Yeah.
It is Arizona and Arizona State there, and the potential's always been there. It's just, can you get it going?
That's similar to LA. USC is the draw here. No one gives a damn about the Rams or certainly the Chargers.
I think Arizona is a better sports state. They want to support Arizona and Arizona State, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like, that's generally like a packed house. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like they have a pretty good crowd at Arizona State most of the time.
BYU ends the season with Houston, so they could go 10-2. Utah State 41, San Diego State 20. Utah State, I guess. I don't know. That game's over. That means nothing. San Diego State's dud this year. Bad win total over by me. Colorado 21, Kansas 37 at Arrowhead Stadium there. Colorado's defense was terrible. This is what I feared. Colorado's defense had been a lot better, but fucking Lance Leipold, no team in the Big 12 plays like them. It's the hardest team to simulate in practice, in my opinion. Because you have Daniels, you have this run scheme with Heshaw and Neal. Neal had a gigantic game today. I had him in DFS. Hope you tailed me. And then because of that, they're basically running the option out of that thing a lot of times. Well, not as much this year, but historically.
And they use a lot of pre-snap motion.
Yeah, it's very creative, man. Like very, very fucking creative stuff. They were doing the quarterback toss back, throwing it back to the quarterback and then throw it. Like
they find ways to get you off balance and take advantage.
Dude, they get guys wide the fuck open. They scored every damn possession. I don't know about the final possession, but the first 8 possessions of the game they scored. Colorado could not stop them. And that was the difference in the game. I mean, yes, I know Colorado fans. I'm a Colorado fan, and people were bitching about the late hit on Shedeur Sanders, which was late, in my opinion. Dirty, late, whatever the fuck you want to say. That guy probably should have been kicked, and that would have extended the drive. I don't care. Kansas was better. Yeah. Kansas was the better team today. And shout out to Lance Leipold, because if they win next week, what's that?
Not in defense of the guy, because I think it was dirty, and I think you could have hit him anywhere else on the body, and I do think it was a egregiously late hit. But if you're going to take away the ability to hit the top half of the body, you probably shouldn't bitch about people going low. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, look, I prefer football. I prefer that being a no call, but the problem is that every damn time I turn on the TV, there's 500 calls. You can't touch the quarterback. Well, yeah. And so it's like, where's the consistency there? Now, like I said, that extends the drive. Okay, maybe Colorado puts up 28, and it comes down to the final possession. I still think Kansas would have won the game.
Yeah,
I still think he would have won the game, or they would have won the game. So shout out to Kansas. They play Baylor next week in I think it's another home game if memory serves me correct. But and if they win that, they go bowling.
Devin Neal, like you mentioned, 207 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, and then 80 receiving yards and a touchdown. That is a DFS god right there.
Yeah. Arkansas whooped up on La Tech. La Tech did cover though. Stupid game. Pitt, Louisville, Patty C. I tried to tell you we lock battled on this.
Boy, was I wrong on that one.
I knew Brown would be ready for that one. 37-9. They take down the Pitt Panthers.
Was it what was it? Did Pitt dress that up a little bit? Why do I feel like
they got a safety in the 4th?
Yeah.
It was 37-7. They got a safety in the fourth. Yeah, I mean, that's what's crazy too, is if you really think about Louisville's season, the Miami and SMU games were kind of on bad calls. Like they should have lost to Notre Dame. Notre Dame did beat them, but they were in that SMU and Miami game where they easily could have won those games.
Yeah.
And
All they would have had to have
game too. The Stanford game too was actually horseshit. That was actually like legit horseshit. To throw a flag for trash talk, stupid to me. Absolutely stupid. Like to me, that the ref should be fired, never work a game again.
So they're sitting at 7-4 now, is it?
Yeah. And it should be 8-3. It should be 8-3, and you could argue the SMU game or the Miami game. Yeah. Like yeah, I mean, nice play. I bet Louisiana -10 against Troy. They won by 21. Nice. Louisiana's going to be in the Sun Belt Championship.
They're looking like they're probably going to host it at this point, right?
Cajun Stadium, hell yeah. Missouri 39, Mississippi State 20. Missouri goes to 8-3. They have Arkansas left. They're going to go to 9-3. Once again, proving a great schedule and not a good team. Missouri has no business being in the top 25.
I don't know. They're definitely going to beat Arkansas, but yes, they're not. They're very overrated. I agree.
Arkansas. I mean, I don't know that they'll definitely beat Arkansas, but it's in Columbia. I would favor Mizzou by like a field goal. Yeah. But this is a perfect example of a shitty schedule. So you get Murray State, Buffalo, and Boston College to start the season. All three brand new head coaches, right?
Yeah.
And then your fourth non-con game is UMass, right? So, dude,
really challenging yourself.
Look at this, dude. They're gonna go 9-3 with their wins being this. Murray State, terrible FCS. So I think 2 wins in the FCS. Buffalo, who is going to end up being 7-5 or 6. Yes, they could win 8 games there, but you got them game 2. Boston College, Buffalo had a new coach. Boston College, 6-6 probably. Vanderbilt, 6-6 probably. Their other wins, UMass, 1-11 or 2-11.
Well, if we're gonna give who do we give credit for Boston College? SMU. We got to give Missouri a little bit of credit for.
True,
Boston.
but I think it should be noted that when you get a brand new coach in game 3, it's completely different than playing them in game 11 or 12 or 13.
Sure, it
like
helps.
You know what I mean? Like getting 3 brand new head coaches to start your season is fucking incredible.
I mean, when you're looking at the reality of the situation, whether that's a fair assessment, like do I think Florida is a lot better than the team that played against Miami at this point in the season? Yeah. But I still think
they do this. The committee does do this, but if we're looking at it, if we're stating what they should be looking at, fair. To me, if you beat Boston College this year, you beat Boston College this year. Right? Yeah. But they don't do that. They say a win in November means more than a win in September.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what they've done in the 4 team at least.
That's true.
But my point is they still wouldn't have like their best win would be
Auburn,
Oklahoma, or Boston College, because they're both going to, or Vanderbilt. All 3 are going to go 6-6 probably.
I mean, they beat some okay teams. They didn't beat any great teams, but if you're able to go 9-3 against that schedule, I'll push back a little bit. I think you deserve to be in the top 25 at the end of the season.
I disagree. You got to beat somebody good. And dude, I nailed this, by the way. If they go 9-3, I think I exactly said on the preview for Missouri that this team will win 9 games. I go, because they're better than 9 opponents. Just on, yes. And they got their ass whooped in those 3. So, yeah. Rob Donald said a win over Wofford means more than a win at Minnesota. That's the problem. And that's why they should outlaw FCS or group of 5 games in November. If you're going to actually say that, which they've said that, the committee and the 4 team, at least they said that. So that's a problem. Missouri wins by 19 against Mississippi State. How about Oregon State? This game was awesome.
That was their Super Bowl, and they pulled it
Yeah.
out. Congrats to Oregon State.
41-38 against Wazoo. Disappointing. Wazoo should have went 11-1 or 10-2 in my opinion. So
does that make them the initial Pac-2 champion?
I think it does. How about my play of Georgia State getting 24 points? I locked it up. They were 23.5, I think it was. They won 52-44 against Texas State. Shout out to those Panthers. Yeah. Abner says, Colby, please explain to me the hate for Miami. Miami can do no wrong. I just don't think they're that good. Like they played no top 25 teams. They lost to Georgia Tech. What the Florida win is their best win. Why should we like Miami? Because Cam Ward throws for 400 yards every game. They're Texas Tech.
If he means on a personal level or on a resume level. On a resume level, it's pretty clear they don't have any great wins. But
on a personal level,
if you were alive anytime before 2005, it makes perfect sense. It doesn't require an explanation.
I mean, just the fact, it shouldn't need an explanation. They were one of the 12 teams that were cheating at a heavy rate. If you look at those 12 teams, you tend to see my disliking for most of them.
Their boosters were playing for players' abortions.
Miami,
it's like a really detestable program.
I mean, and they're a private school. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I just can't get on board with Miami. And then they destroyed the fucking Orange Bowl. What the fuck was that?
Yeah.
I can't think of a good thing about Miami actually. Like they had a legendary stadium. They destroyed it to go play like an hour away at some bullshit NFL stadium that's garbage. Their fan base is fickle. What is a good thing about Miami?
Well, I'll tell you, Miami is good as the bad guys of college football. When they get it going and they start talking trash, they're a great bad guy. But beyond that, like you either have to be from Miami or you have to love the bad guy team. If you're not into that, then you can't root for them. It's one or the other.
Abner, I hate to tell you this, but they did not start the pay for play. I reference this, I feel like every week now. I was reading a book about Bear Bryant in 1952, I think it was. One of those years in the early 50s where they would fly. He was competing. He was at A&M and he was competing with the University of Texas. And they would have these big ass battles over recruits, and they would hire a crop duster to fly a plane over these recruits' houses.
Well, it's well documented back into like the early 1910s and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this shit goes back. Miami didn't emerge. They didn't start cheating until like the late 70s, early 80s. Like buying players has happened for a long fucking time.
They used to like buy players for one game. They'd be like, all right, here's $50, which is like $10,000 back then. Come play against Michigan for us.
Josh said, how about them Huskers? Yeah, we talked about them, brother. Go back and check that out. Nice win for Matt Rule as they're finally bowl eligible. Yeah, Monty's saying it's amazing how all the Southwest Conference schools somehow only Arkansas and Rice avoided serious sanctions. Oh, Arkansas was paying too. You know they were. Yeah, Georgia State, good win. Notre Dame 49, Army 14, dominating performance. I knew after the first drive that there was no point in me watching this game.
Yeah, they got dominated.
It sucks because I was
tried to run the ball 3 times and it was like 1 yard.
And then Notre Dame's like, hey, first rush, like 37 yards. And I was like, okay. Second rush, 15 yards. And then I was like, okay, this game's over. They're not going to be able to, they just don't have the bodies on the line of scrimmage. I don't know. Notre Dame is one that their resume really bothers me too, to tell you the truth. Like I would put a 2-loss team over a Notre Dame 1-loss team. I think they've beaten better competition. Like a lot of the 2-loss teams have beaten better competition than Notre Dame, and they've played a more challenging schedule than Notre Dame.
Okay, but Notre Dame, the way that they have won recently, especially, has just been so dominant
against nobody, though, man. Like, what? Give me the one that I was supposed to be impressed by.
I mean, completely destroying Georgia Tech is looking
without their starting quarterback.
Okay, fair. Beating it. No, I guess Navy but you can't say that.
Well, Navy and Army are good wins, but okay, but the committee should factor in that those are two of the 3 schools that can't offer scholarships. They don't have come on. At what point are we going to use a little bit of our fucking logic?
I mean, they beat Virginia to the same tune that SMU just did, which most teams haven't.
I think SMU won by more, actually.
Yeah, 33-7 versus 35-14.
And that was at Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, okay, still completely dominated Virginia.
Virginia's a 5-win team.
Yeah, I'm just saying they have dominated.
Florida State's a 2-win team.
They have dominated every team on their schedule.
Stanford's a 3-win team.
Louisville, right?
And
A&M
by
7,
right?
And A&M, who they beat by 10.
But I find that ironic that those are the only 2 teams with winning records besides Georgia Tech, and they play Georgia Tech without their quarterback.
Still, A&M sitting there at what, 9-2 right now, and
3.
That's a bit. Is it 9? No, they already have 3 losses. Is it 8-3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's less impressive, but they did that on the road. That was a good win.
True, but once again, Mike Elko, first coach of his career, or first game at Texas A&M, and those wins aren't supposed to matter as much in September, right? Supposed to forgive those ones, right? But yet they forgive that one. They forgive the Northern Illinois loss, but don't use that same logic for the A&M win.
Right. That's still the crown jewel of their
Fucking
resume.
hilarious.
Yeah.
That schedule is dog shit, dude. It's absolute dog shit. That schedule is
not a good schedule. I don't think. I think at its inception was a decent schedule. No,
I locked them up to make the playoffs. I mean, they're going to make the playoffs. I'm going to cash my ticket. But I looked at this and I go, this schedule is absolute horseshit.
I disagree, dude. A road trip to A&M, hosting a defending 13-0 Florida State, and going to USC, who hasn't been as great, but typically
USC was 7-5 last year.
Yeah, that's true. They weren't great 2 years ago. They were 11-1 or 11-2.
But like my thing was, you're getting A&M with the brand new coach game 1. You are playing what's it called? So many of these bullshit games like Georgia Tech, Navy, and Army are neutrals. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say you're right. It's one of the weaker Notre Dame schedules that we've seen recently.
I think they should put 2-loss teams ahead of Notre Dame.
All of them?
I mean, I don't know about a mid-major, but I'm saying the Power 5. Yes.
Like SMU or Miami, if they.
Yes. And another thing is they don't play a conference championship game. So it's like, yeah.
I don't know that Miami has a better schedule.
Tennessee has what? 2 losses right now.
Yeah.
Right. Tennessee's schedule is pretty much dog shit. There's a reason why I took them to make the playoffs too. But at least they have a win against Alabama, right?
Yeah.
I guess you would compare Alabama and Texas A&M, right? And say call that a wash. Call that a wash. But Tennessee did lose to Arkansas, and they did lose to Georgia. Georgia's in the field. Arkansas is your bad loss. Arkansas.
Well, there's no doubt that Notre Dame has a worse loss than anyone that's.
And they're not even accounting for that. So what is Tennessee's second best win? Tennessee beat Florida. All right. That's off the top of my head, right? That's their second best win, I would imagine, right? I'm trying to think of their third best win.
Are we allowed to talk about eye test though? Are we allowed to? Is that like a factor that we can say? Resume, sure. It didn't work out for Notre Dame, and they did lose a game that would arguably be a disqualifying loss. Certainly in a 14 playoff, maybe in a 12-team playoff. But to me, from an eye test standpoint, they look really good. If I wonder
they don't play anyone though. Like, yes, they're dominating them, but to me, they're playing like an AAC schedule. They're playing like an AAC schedule and they're dominating them. It's okay. I think a lot of teams would win on the schedule.
Yeah, I mean the fact that Army is completely eliminated from consideration with a loss against Notre Dame and probably similar wins. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious. I think Notre Dame's wins are better than Army's by a lot. And Army has no one like A&M on their schedule. But Army has one of the easiest schedules in the American. So I think you're right. It's probably comparable to most teams that are playing against the likes of Tulane or whatever in the American. Look, how
about this? Boise State's resume is better than Notre Dame's.
Okay. I would need to look at it, but you might be right. They're comparable, and I think
Boise State has a 3-point loss to the number 1 team in the field, right?
Yeah.
In a game that a lot of people thought, and I'm not just saying myself. I think a lot of people thought Boise outplayed Oregon.
Well, I was just talking about their wins, but when you bring the loss into the equation, absolutely, Boise's loss is so much better than Notre Dame.
Boise has a win against UNLV, who's really good. They have 3 or 4 Power 5 wins, right?
UNLV's
so
okay. They lost to
UNLV
Syracuse.
is the same as Louisville.
Yeah, thereabouts.
I think they're very similar. I think that's a 50-50 game.
It's a good win. It's a good win for Boise for sure.
And then after that, Boise's what? They beat Georgia Southern, who might play for the Sun Belt Championship. They beat Washington State, who's a fucking 9-win team right now. Fuck off. Boise State should be ahead of Notre Dame.
It's fair.
It's just
probably. Yeah, I mean, especially considering the loss. I agree with you. I think the resume as a whole is stacks up favorably to Notre Dame's.
Yeah.
Still, all I'm saying is, if I were to put Notre Dame against 12 other teams, the top other 12 teams, I think Notre Dame would probably beat a few of them.
Okay, maybe. I mean, like I said, I think Kansas is 5 and 6 right now. Would beat a lot of teams in the top 25.
Well,
right?
Okay, but it's not like Tennessee has this ball buster like resume that obviously should be put ahead of Notre Dame's. They're comparable. I just feel like you're being overly harsh on Notre Dame a little bit.
Well, no, coming into the season, I thought it was dog shit, and that's what me thinking USC would be better.
Thinking Florida State would be better.
Thinking Florida State would be better, and with those things going sour, which I know is out of their control, it is a horrible fucking schedule. And then when you lose to a team in 8th place in the fucking MAC, you should be penalized for that.
Yeah, they probably shouldn't be hosting a home game just based on that, but they will be. Almost.
I think they have and I'll say this: I think they have the weakest resume of any team in the top 25.
Top 25. Wow, I'd have to do a full-on analysis of that, but you may be right.
Even Missouri, because I mean, I guess Missouri's gotten blown out 3 times, but they've played much better teams than Notre Dame.
What about Notre Dame versus Army? Because Army's probably still in the top 20.
Army didn't. Yeah, Army's got to go though. After this week, they're gone. Right?
Out of the top 25 entirely, at 10-1.
They should be. They fucking got rolled. They played nobody. No one in the top 85.
True.
ECU's their best win. I'm not even joking. It might be their best win.
Still, if you beat everyone and that's all that's on your schedule, then but I don't know. Army would be fringe top 25 at this point.
What is Army's best win, buddy?
Let me go pull that up. Make me dig in here.
What's great is this: Army's playing. They've played 4 coaches that have been fired already.
Well, they probably contributed.
And
to that.
Dilfer's probably next.
In fact, Mike Houston got fired directly after the Army game. I mean, their best win ECU is what? 6-5. Probably finished 7-5.
That's their best win. That's what I was saying, though. If that's your best win, I just told you that I think ECU is really like a 6-6 team, but their schedule is
Texas
5 and 6 right now.
5 and 6. And then Air Force is getting better. What are they sitting at?
3 and 8.
4 and 7.
Oh, they won tonight. Yeah, 4 and 7. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good schedule. Okay, but they're 10 and
dude.
1, so
think about this. Army is only going to play one fucking bowl team.
Yeah, no, their schedule's very.
Or Navy. No. Navy will be a bowl team.
Wait, UTSA is not bowling. or are they?
They won Friday, so 6-5. Yeah, they're gonna go. UTSA is gonna go 6-6. So yeah, they'll play 3 bowl teams.
Tulane and
Tulane.
Navy.
Oh, because the championship game.
Yeah. But
okay. But when they lose to Tulane,
yeah,
by 3 touchdowns.
Anyway, they're out of the conversation most likely, unless some serious carnage happens in the Big 12. The American is out of the playoff conversation.
I think Tulane's alive, dude.
They may be, but
they won't
help.
put them in. But I think Tulane's alive. All right. Anyway, what else happened tonight, buddy? We had the likes of or was I Baylor 20, Houston 10. Baylor goes to 7-4. Chance to go 8-4. Dave Aranda
saving that job.
Let's go. Boise beats Wyoming 17-13 in Laramie. That game was dicey.
Yeah, I mean, Genty. Do we think that Heisman odds will probably get a little tighter after that, especially with the playoff scenario being what it is? Yeah, most likely.
Alabama 3, Oklahoma 24. Alabama should be eliminated not only because they've lost to 2 6-6 teams, or more than likely will be 2 6-6 teams. They also only scored 3 fucking points against Oklahoma. It's like the Vanderbilt game. They never had the lead in the Vanderbilt game. They had the lead here 3-0, but
they look like garbage. Oklahoma was a far superior team. Oklahoma I
was all over this one, man. They had 2 weeks to prep. There's a reason why I took Oklahoma money line. Where are those shit talkers, by the way? On our pick show, a bunch of people said I was a fucking idiot for taking Oklahoma. I knew you give Venables 2 weeks, and Alabama is a one-dimensional team. If you can limit Milroe's rushing ability, because the rush opens up the pass, and make him be a pocket passer, Alabama is an average fucking team when that happens.
Yeah, they throw a pick 6,
almost 2 pick 6s. I mean, Milroe's stat line: 11 of 26, 164 yards, 3 interceptions.
Not good. Not good. Alabama certainly has no place in the playoff at this point, in my opinion.
I agree.
Great win against Georgia, but really, if you're really looking at what happened in that game, A, Georgia isn't unbeatable like they normally are, and then B, that was one great half of football for Alabama, and they kind of almost blew it. In fact, they did blow the lead. Did Georgia tie it up, or did Georgia
tied it up? Tied it up, and then Mason asks, "Is UNLV live for the Mountain West Champion?" Yes. No, they basically control their own destiny. Arklahoma though is still having an Arklahoma season. They're going to go 6-6, and that's a classic Arklahoma season. Patty C, Iowa State 31, Utah 28. This game was fantastic. If Utah and Isaac Wilson didn't drop the ball on a handoff inside their own 15, they probably would have won the game. But credit to Iowa State. They battled back once they were losing in the 4th. Rocco Beck, big drive. They win 31-28, and they are 9-2. They could have their first double-digit win season here if they can win Farmageddon.
Unreal. They completely had faded from the Big 12 championship picture, but here they are controlling their own destiny, it seems, with the Farmageddon on deck.
I also cashed on Utah plus 7.5. I did sprinkle the money line and lost, but cash there. But I also cashed on the Auburn Tigers 43-41.
Dude, the Mike Elko quote of, we're locked in on our next game. We're locked in on Texas. That's going to live forever.
Let me ask you a question, buddy. So let's say A&M beats Texas next week.
Yeah.
If A&M loses to Georgia in the SEC championship, they're still going to put them in, even though that would be a 3-loss A&M team because they played the extra game.
A&M team.
No. Oh, it'd be a 4-loss. Yeah, right. So
they won't put them in. They won't put them in.
They have to. No, I've heard people talk about this. When I was at Mountain West Media Days, I was talking to people, and in general, I've heard other podcasts where people, that cover the sport and talk to the committee members. They're going to be honoring apparently every team that plays the extra game more than normal. Apparently, I mean, this could be bullshit.
Every team or just the SEC team?
I think the SEC
true,
and Big Ten, right?
Then the ACC is definitely sending 2. If they have 2 11-1 teams going into their conference championship,
you'd have to put A&M in though over Texas, right?
Because they beat them straight up,
and they played for their conference championship.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do it, but it seems to me pretty absurd that if on the last
you're
A&M,
A&M, then why play the game?
Yeah, just deny the invitation.
Yeah, deny the invitation and play in the playoffs, right?
I think to me, if I had to guess, because I heard the president of the committee or whatever his title is talking about it, and he said they're going to take into consideration the entirety of the resume at the end of the season, kind of regardless. So to me, it came across as slightly different than what you're saying. Basically, if you take a loss in that 13th game, that's part of your resume that they're going to consider. And so I think if that's true and they have 4 losses, I think they're completely out of the equation. But
I mean, if that's true, but I heard completely otherwise. I heard that
even with 3 losses
yeah.
in a 10, if a 9-3, and just kind of getting into the SEC championship game against a weak SEC schedule, I don't think that necessarily deserves a spot in the playoff. 9-3,
fair, but they would have their resume would still be as decent. A Missouri team that's ranked, they beat 41-0, I think, or something, 41-3 or something.
That's a great win. Yeah,
a Texas win, right?
Yep. Losses to Notre Dame. Who else did they
lose to? Jordan. They lost to South Carolina, and they lost at Auburn. They also beat LSU, who would be pushing, and Florida. They whooped Florida's ass, actually. So I don't know. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be in that conversation, certainly.
Marshall 42, Old Dominion 35. Marshall, I believe. I don't think they've clinched yet because Georgia Southern has a tiebreaker. But if Marshall wins at JMU, they go to the Sun Belt Championship game.
I don't think so, right? Or do they? Because they have one conference loss.
They're up, yeah, but Southern has a tiebreaker on them.
But they Southern has 2
they're
conference
up
losses.
1 game. Yeah.
Okay.
Makes for a fun final week.
That'll be good for the. We can play spoiler. That'd be fun.
Vanderbilt covered for me against LSU. Of course, the Pisser did. 24-17. LSU wins.
Is there any chance they get Tennessee next week?
Sure, 100%. Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee's very good, really. Like I think Tennessee's got a good defense and a pretty limited offense. They're kind of like Iowa.
Yeah, I want to see what they do in that scenario. Because that's they're gonna have to come up with reasons to put SEC teams in at that point. Because that would be only Georgia and Texas with
what do you do if Georgia? What do you do if Georgia Tech beats Georgia next week?
Then obviously they're out.
But they're going to the SEC championship. They just locked it up today.
Oh, and they could, I mean, whoever wins the SEC championship auto bid. That'd be hilarious if the SEC champ couldn't get in. But that would be a terrible loss. I mean, the fact that Georgia Tech beat Miami, that'll look like a forgivable loss at that point.
Georgia Tech is actually talented enough this year. Now, I would still favor Georgia, obviously, but it wouldn't shock me if Georgia Tech beat Georgia at all.
It wouldn't shock me either. It wouldn't shock me at all. I think
next week's going to be fascinating because you also have
is going to be hard to contain no matter what, no matter who he's playing against.
We should also talk about a lock battle win for me with Kansas State 41, Cincinnati 15. Get this Bearcat bullshit out of here, buddy.
Dude, what the hell? I mean, I got destroyed on all my lock battles this week. Just annihilate. I don't think I locked UNC up, but I took UNC against Boston College. Nope, not by a mile. Obviously, this one, and then what was the other one we had? Louisville Pitt. Sheesh.
Yeah. Big ass whoopings.
Yeah. So, no, what was the one we were just talking about? Sorry, you just brought it up.
Cincinnati and Kansas State.
Kansas State. He's got to be on the hot seat. The fans hate Scott Satterfield.
So he's 5-6. They got TCU next week, and TCU's playing better. I almost feel like I
They're
favored
gonna
TCU.
They're gonna whoop Cincinnati.
Yeah. Let's talk about the next one here, because Colorado State, talk about shitting the bed. They did it against Fresno State tonight. Unbelievable. 22-20, 28-22. They controlled their own destiny.
Oh man, gave it up.
They're bowling for the first time in a few years, but
still disappointing.
And then how about Duke 31, Virginia Tech 28? I want to know where you're at
on Brent Pry.
Yes, and Virginia Tech in general.
They're the same team that they have been for a long time. They're just disappointing in games that you think that they should win, and just not that good. They're exactly the same team they were last year. No progress being made. They're just stagnating as a program. They have to get rid of him, but I don't know if they're going to wait one more year. I think Whit Babcock, he may be gone when they fire Brent Pry, so he may want to keep Pry around one more year to keep his own ass around one more year. But I think he needs to just make one final last gasp and find someone new, because as good as Brent Pry has looked at certain points, like the overall at the end of the day, they've lost 6 games. So got to go. It's year 3.
If you don't beat Virginia, you go 5-7.
Yeah, that's probably it.
5-7. Your win total was 8.5 or 9, depending on when you got it.
Yeah. I mean, if the loser of that game probably should be fired, the winner probably keeps his job. But UVA, even if they're 5-7, probably won't fire Tony Elliott. But Virginia Tech might fire Brent Pry if they lose to UVA here.
And that's another thing Mason's bringing up. None of the top Big 12 teams played each other. That is another example of the scheduling. When you have these gigantic conferences, if you have easier schedules, this is my point. If you don't play each other, I feel like if you gave them different schedules, you'd have a different 4 teams at the top.
It's fair.
You know what I mean?
So Colorado didn't play BYU or
Arizona State,
or
Iowa State.
Yeah, Iowa State only played who?
Iowa State did not play BYU, or did they play BYU? No, they didn't. They didn't
play Arizona State.
No,
and then didn't play Colorado, and then BYU only played Arizona State, and Arizona State only played BYU. Yeah, it's true. Makes it really hard.
You can't have these gigantic conferences, because I don't know that you're actually getting the best teams.
Yeah, you're not narrowing it down.
Schedules. Yeah. USC 19, UCLA 13. USC is actually bowling. 6-5. USC could fuck Notre Dame season next week. Please do it. Please do it.
They could. They won't.
Which one do you think next week? You got USC, Notre Dame, Vandy, Tennessee, and that's at Vandy. Notre Dame's at USC. Auburn's at Bama, but I think that one's already kind of cooked.
As far as meaning anything, or that Bama's already cooked?
Kicking them out of the fucking playoffs. Texas A&M, Texas.
They might
Miami,
find a way
Syracuse.
to get Bama in there. Miami, Syracuse, Texas
Alabama makes the playoffs with 2 losses to a 6-6 team. I'm gonna fucking lose my mind. I'm gonna lose my fucking mind because those games, they weren't just like, they got dominated in both those fucking games.
Well, they made a good comeback against Vandy, but
they never had the lead the whole game. You can't tell me
fighting.
They're 20 fucking 4-point favorites, and
Vandy
you never
was playing
had the
to
lead.
Protect the lead for a lot of that game. So, I don't think Bama deserves it to be in consideration, really. But hold on, you were saying potential upsets. I think Miami, Syracuse, like you said. Obviously, a lot of people are thinking A&M will beat Texas straight up. It's questionable. We'll see.
SMU, Cal, Clemson, South Carolina is huge.
Definitely possible. Yeah.
You got what? Oklahoma State at Colorado. You got Arizona State at Arizona. You got BYU hosting Houston. You got Iowa State, Kansas State, Farmageddon.
All of those are potential upsets.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and then the SEC, Tennessee at Vandy.
I think Vandy has a great chance to beat Tennessee. I think Notre Dame's going to slaughter USC.
I think that's you wanting. But I don't know. USC does kind of suck.
Yeah, they suck. And Notre Dame.
USC's like similar to Louisville. Be a 7-point game.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the quality is that true quality of USC, I think Louisville's proven more than USC.
I think Louisville's better than USC, but I'd lay 2.5 if I had to make that line.
The USC Louisville. Yeah. So what do you think the Notre Dame USC game will be?
I think it'll be like within 10 points.
Could be. USC has the talent, neutralize some of that stuff.
So anyway, folks, that's our show. Give Patty C a follow on Twitter at PattyC831. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. The College Football Experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. YouTube.com/The College Experience. Hit that like and subscribe button. We're trying to get to 15K by New Year's.
Boom.
Do your job. I can't wait for next week because I do think we're going to see a lot more chaos. I think Miami at Syracuse could be the one, dude.
Definitely.
That could be
Syracuse is a wild card team, and Miami is playing a lot closer than they should week by week. So they're always at risk.
Could Oregon State get Boise?
Are they playing next week?
Yeah,
potentially. I would have never thought Oregon State could have gotten Wazoo, but they got them, so maybe they can get Boise too. Especially because Boise's one of the teams that's playing a lot worse late in the season than they were early in the season. So
Maryland, Penn State, no. Could Michigan get Ohio State, Patty C?
Very small chance, 5% chance.
Could Washington get Oregon?
They could. Washington could get Oregon. That would be a huge one.
It's gonna be fun.
But would that impact the? Is the Big Ten championship already set?
Yeah, so I guess it wouldn't, but it would for a home game maybe.
Oregon is definitely in over the likes of like Penn State, even though they haven't played each other.
I mean, I think so because I thought I said they clinched last week. Because didn't everyone make fun of it that like it took the Big Ten 4 days to figure it out that they clinched? The Big Ten's got so many teams. That's when you might know your conference is too big. If you need 4 days to figure out that your team actually clinched, we might have
these games don't matter anymore. Yeah,
we might have a fucking problem. All right, folks, check out the College Basketball Experience live every single night, talking every single game. Check out the College Baseball Experience, the FCS College Football Experience, all that good stuff. The Sports Gambling Podcast. Till next time, this is the College Football Experience Week 13 reaction show. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here.